Okay, hey guys. I'm trying something new today. I'm just going to record what I think is a pretty acceptable answer to this question for everybody. And then after the fact, I'll go and give a little bit of individual feedback to all of you. I've never done this before, but I was thinking about it, and I was realizing, oh, you know what happens if I go in early and I give feedback to the students that are so time conscious and get their answers in early, is that other people can just copy what I say. So I decided to wait and then just answer all of you at once. I hope that's okay, and we'll see how this goes, right? So here's your question. If you use a small diffuser or softbox on an on-camera flash to make a head and shoulders portrait, what will the light quality be? Why? If you use the same diffuser to photograph a piece of M&M candy, what will the light quality be? What will the light quality be, and why? Okay, so there's a lot of ways that you can answer this question, and also something that you might be interested in doing is bringing up the fact that there are not enough constants given here. We don't know in this question if the distance between the flash and the subject is changing between these two scenarios, do we? So I'm going to answer this as if the distance isn't changing. Also, we don't know if the intensity of the flash is changing. There's a lot of things we don't know. So here we're going to assume it's same exposure settings, same distance between the two subjects, and that'll give me a fairly straightforward answer. But I just want to give you an FYI that if you change the subject, the distance between the subject and the light in either of these scenarios, the answer is totally different. Okay, so we'll start with the online lecture. Let's see. I believe in light quality, page 1. Yes, page 1, really quickly, it goes over what hard light is and how it's created. Hard light is generated by a small light source relative to the subject. It is undiffused. And then soft light, on page 2 of the same section, is created by a large light source relative to the subject. It is diffused. So this can be confusing, though, this little portion here, the distance between the light and the subject and diffused. Now, the text, I really appreciate the text here because our authors are very clear that there's really, in the world of physics, what's happening is it's the distance between the subject and the light that makes a difference. It's not whether or not it's diffused. Why is that? It's because gosh, let me see if I can find this. Hold on, I'm going to pause this for a second so I can find the beautiful drawing that they give us to explain this. Okay, here we are on page 89, or no, 87, my bad. On page 87, we have a light. This is a light, and it is close, relatively close to our subject. Now notice, because it is so close to our subject, it is also big relative to our subject. Now, the reason this light looks like this isn't because there's photographic tools out there that are lights that are shaped like this. It's because this is representing probably just a small head of similar wattage to what you have, maybe 500 watts, and it's got a frame on it or a softbox, same difference, then has some diffusion material on it. But what that diffusion material does is it effectively increases the size of the light. Okay, so right now we've got a big light close to our subject. So what kind of light do we have? I'm giving you a second there to answer. It is soft light. Okay, then here on page 89, we have the same light, but now we have a greater distance between our subject and the light. And that means that it is effectively smaller than our subject. And so we have a narrower family of angles delivering the light to our subject, and so therefore we don't have light wrapping around our subject, giving us that beautiful gradient shadow. We probably have rather hard shadows because the light's only going to get there and then just start and then rather abruptly stop, and maybe get here and then abruptly stop and we'll have a shadow. Whereas back on page 87, we can see here that the light is able to wrap in a little bit, wrap around the subject matter. The family of angles with which this light can direct its lumens toward our subject is much greater, and that creates that gradient in the shadow, which creates soft light. Because remember, light is described by the shadow that it creates. That's from chapter 2 of your book. I don't even know what page, but that's definitely where it's at. So these are the two places where, for this answer, I'm looking for you to reference is light quality, sections 1 and 2 of your lecture. I'm sorry, pages 1 and 2 of 3 of your lecture. And then in your reading, chapter 5, pages 87 and 89. And you can reference all sorts of other things. But I think these are really the most direct answers. So That's your support. So the answer is, assuming that the light stays the same distance from both subjects, then the light, let's say we put a diffuser on the on-camera flash that makes the light 16 square inches, 4 inches by 4 inches. That sounds about accurate for most on-camera diffusers, right? So 16 square inches relative to the head and shoulders of a human, say at 4 feet away, isn't very big. So you will have, awkward pause, you will have harder light because that light's not going to be able to, it's going to be further away from your subject. It's going to seem like it's further away from your subject because it's pretty small, right? And it's not going to be able to wrap around your subject because it doesn't have as wide a family of angles. But that same 16 square inch diffuser will create a light that is big enough to effectively soften the shadows on your M&M. It's going to be a much softer light because that light's bigger, pretty much bigger than the M&M. Now, truth be told, I did this experiment the first time I ever taught this class. I did this experiment with my equipment, and I found I think I probably shot it at like probably 4 feet. I think I did. And I did see a noticeable difference in the quality of the light, meaning that if I was going to use empiricism to observe the shadow, the quality of the shadow line, I would say that the shadow was more gradated on the M&M than the shadow was on my subject. But not intensely different. So it's a difficult question. So if you actually get out your equipment to experiment with this, and you do what I did, which is you decide that distance is your constant, the size of your flash and the distance is a constant, then you're gonna see a little difference, but it's not huge. I mean, you really have to be a techie to pay attention to these kinds of little differences. But technically, and if you're in the perfect lands of physics, you're in a black room, there's no extra light bouncing around, all the light that is not hitting your subject is absorbed by something, it's not reflected back at your subject, you will see that the shadow on the M&M is softer than the shadow on your subject. So if you did do this experiment, you would have to have done the whole thing like surrounded by black to get a really, really good results. I hope that makes sense. And thank you for how much work you guys put into this. Hopefully everybody followed instructions today and cited both the lecture and the text. And remember, when you cite the text, we really want you to quote it. Just quote it. Don't paraphrase it. Just quote it. Just cut and paste right out of the text, put the whole thing in quotations, and at the end of it, in parentheses, say Hunter, comma, and the page number you pulled it from. The reason we do this is twofold. One, we don't give you tests, and we really feel it's important that you use this text. It's an incredibly good text. These people don't tell you any lies. They give you the facts, and they give you the knowledge you need to be a pro. And we know that you will be a better photographer if you use it. Reason number one. Reason number two, in the event that your answer is wrong, it'll be very difficult to support it with information directly quoted from the text. It just, once you put that in there, you're more likely to see your mistake. And then we want you to cite the lecture, because copyright laws, you should tell us that that's where you got your information from. And we also want to know that you actually read the lecture. I definitely, for this class, go out of my way to choose a question that really has a right and wrong answer and can be cited in both the lecture and the text every single week. Because I have a number of questions that I could give you, and a lot of them are opinion, and I tend not to choose those because I think it's important that you really read the text and you read the lecture and that you apply it to your answer. That being said, thank you for all your work. I will shortly go through these and just grade whether or not you're correct. And then after the date passes for however much time you have to give feedback to your peers, then I will just go ahead and finish off your grades and send them back to you shortly after that time. Thanks again, and I hope you guys are having a really great weekend. Also, please don't forget, if you have any questions on assignments number 2 or 3, go ahead and post those in week 2 problems and solutions. So that way, if any of your peers share the same question, they can find them there. Okay? Thank you.